Hey everybody, how are you doing? This here's the Neon Wrangler, and today we're talking about something topical, which is unusual for me, but I might as well chime in because I have some personal experience in this situation, or I shouldn't say this situation, in this whatever you'd call it, this topic. What I'm talking about is the Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight. Okay, now when I was younger, in my 20s, I boxed. I boxed for about 4 years. I never went pro or anything like that, even though the coach was encouraging me to. And he goes, you're in the gym every day. You might as well make some money at this. And I'm like, well, okay, but I was a little too smart for that. I mean, not that the coach was wrong, but I just didn't have, I had a good job. I mean, see, that's what I'm saying. I had a good job. I had a good, good vehicle, good home, and all that kind of thing. And I didn't want to risk getting punched in the head without headgear. And I knew that a lot of these guys were a damn sight meaner than me. And so I just enjoyed doing amateur stuff and running some programs there at the boxing gym, like businessman's boxing and stuff like that. Where it was boxing, but it was the stakes weren't quite as high, but it was fun, and I really enjoyed it. I got a lot of good skills out of it. Now the reason I brought up that is because all the best fighters seem to have a desire, an innate desire to do that fighting, to better their situation. All the fighters I knew from my gym were all, lower income, and they were using boxing. They were a lot hungrier, to put it, to put it like in the Rocky terms. They would, they'd come to the gym. They were working. All of them, most of the guys around me were pros, and they were doing it to make some money, and so we would make sure we got them good fights and stuff like that to go do that. Now, and they were able to, psych themselves up to become a pro so they could make the money. And I think if I'd been in a lot worse circumstances, I might have actually agreed to go pro. Even though the pay was terrible, it would be extra pay. And at the time, but it's not a rich, when I was doing it, you were lucky to get $100 a round when you were fighting. That's the way the situation was with these guys. This was grassroots, starting to build your way up. And we had some guys that had built their way up to decent records, and some guys that could really hit, and some all that kind of stuff. All of them were great guys, but they were elevating themselves using boxing. Now, I didn't do that because I just didn't need to. I didn't have that hungry. I mean, I wasn't that hungry to get my head pounded in by a pro when I could wear headgear and 18 ounce, or not even 18 ounce, whatever, the amateur gloves, the thicker gloves, and have kind of a fun time with it. Now, this brings me to the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson situation. Jake Paul's had everything handed to him. He's a rich man. He doesn't need for anything. He doesn't want for anything. I mean, he's got his money, he's got his fame, he's got his, him and his brother do all their nonsense and all that kind of thing. Armies of 12-year-olds watch him and all that kind of stuff. That's my first point of concern there, is I think the first time Jake Paul gets hurt, he gets his nose broken, he gets his eye smashed, he gets his jaw dislocated, he gets anything like that happening to him, he's going to quit boxing pretty quick. Because he doesn't need to be in there. He doesn't need to be in there getting his head kicked in. Now, all of his other fights, he's been against tomato cans or, retired, more or less retired MMA guys, a basketball player. And when it's not that, he's been paying people off to help him pad his career, and, we've seen where easily some of the pros could have knocked him out, like Floyd Mayweather, but they didn't. They helped him out, they got probably paid really well for that. I can't blame him. I can't blame him for taking that paycheck. If he's offering it and they take it and they get a cut or whatever, he's probably throwing tons of money at him. I don't know what Mike Tyson and him. I think it was like they're going to split $600 million or something like that. Now, Tyson did come up from a disadvantaged background, and that's where he learned to get mean and he learned to fight. But you got to understand something. Jake Paul's been fighting for 4 years. Mike Tyson is older. He's almost 60. But most of the guys that Jake Paul should be fighting have been fighting their whole lives. Now, if he wants to pay Mike Tyson and try to, get that on his record, whatever, it's really a no-win situation for him. If he fights Tyson and gets knocked the hell out, it's over for him. If he fights Tyson and he wins, that's going to be a bad look on him too. And there's no upside for him on this thing, and I don't know why he's doing it other than ego. But what he should do is do like every other boxer. Get your ass in a real boxing gym, start taking the fights, the low-level pro fights, and work your way up to get ranked and all that kind of thing. I don't think he'd make it. I can tell you he wouldn't make it. He might fight a 1 or 2 tomato cans going up, but by the time he hits his 3rd or 4th fight, these are guys that are, dangerous guys. These are guys who starting to know how to fight. You get beyond that, he's going to be getting in there with more and more dangerous guys who have been fighting their whole lives, not just 4 years or whatever the nonsense he says he's been fighting for. And he says he's got an iron chin, and Tyson was scared of him and all this kind of stuff. He was death staring and all that. No, it ain't going to happen. There's plenty of good fighters out there that want a piece of him if it comes to that. But he won't do that. He's used to going from A to Z and not doing A, B, C, D, E, F, G to actually earn the respect that he wants. These set-up, gimmicky fights are not going to get you anything. They're just going to make you look like a circus act. That's all you're going to be. It's going to be like, he's basically like Andy Kaufman. I don't know if you guys remember Andy Kaufman. He played Latka on Taxi and Man in the Moon. Jim Carrey, did a movie about Andy Kaufman. And Andy Kaufman was a performance artist, more or less. And one of his performance gigs was he would go into the southern states and he would make fun of the southern people, like, hurt, get out your trailer and all that kind of thing. And then he described himself as the intergender champion because he figured if he could wrestle and beat a 350-pound woman, then he could wrestle a 200-pound man and beat him. That's where him and Jerry the King Lawler was a real professional wrestler and a mean dude. But the two of them were actually friends behind the scenes, and Andy would say, okay, Jerry, I want you to really hit me. I want you to do this and all that. And Jerry was, kept silent on it for a long time, but he was into it. He helped out. Sorry, I dropped something on the floor, and I don't know what it is. But anyway, Jerry helped him, helped Andy with his performance art and that kind of thing. And Andy wasn't looking for any huge payday. He was just, he loved to instigate people, okay? And I see that Jake Paul is almost the same thing as Andy Kaufman, except he's not as smart as Andy Kaufman. He's not as clever as Andy Kaufman. He's not as creative as Andy Kaufman. But he's an act. That's all he is. And he's going to throw all the money he can at somebody to get what he wants. And that's what I think is going to be his ultimate downfall here because, even though Mike Tyson's near 60, Jake Paul is no spring chicken either, and he hasn't been fighting for his whole life. Like I keep saying that over and over again. And you got to have a lot of heart to do that kind of training. And, Tyson used to talk about it. He goes, training is something. He goes, when you're disciplined, he goes, discipline is doing something you hate like you love it. And I don't see Jake Paul being that way. He just isn't. But so what's my prediction for the fight? Well, what I want to see is I want to see Mike Tyson knock him out of the ring, knock him cold. And I hope that happens. But if the other happens, I've already told you, whatever. It's not going to be any kind of a genuine win or anything like that for him. No one's going to take him any more seriously than they do now. He's literally a joke. And you hear him talking, he's a joke. And it's just what he's doing is inane. Okay, so anyway, those are my predictions from somebody who has a little bit of experience, and I hope that you found that useful. And excuse me, I will see you on the next roundup, fellas and ladies and everybody else. Have a good day, and I'll see you soon.